Echoes of my haunted home. The return. Why does this house keep haunting my dreams? I whispered to myself, standing before the old childhood home that had plagued my nightmares for 30 years. This place was not merely a memory, it was a shadow that had followed me into adulthood, growing more terrifying with each passing year. The move in. When I was 8, my family moved into this enormous house. Originally a duplex, it had been converted into a single-family home. The attic was semi-finished and served as our playroom, while the basement, with its abandoned wheelchair and narrow secret staircase, became the setting of my darkest fears. The attic's curse. The attic was always filled with dead flies and a musty smell that never went away. Playing there with my friends did nothing to diminish the sense of dread. Even my mother confided years later that she felt the same unsettling presence I did. We all sensed it, a malevolent force that lingered in every shadow. The dread. From a young age, I hated being alone in that house. The feeling that someone, or something, was leaning over my shoulder became a regular occurrence. I took to listening to Paul Simon's Graceland at night, believing the positive vibes would ward off any evil spirits. The silhouette. One night, after waking from a nightmare, I tiptoed to my parents' room for comfort. Instead, I found the silhouette of someone standing by the window. Assuming it was my mom, I went back to bed. The next morning, my mother insisted she had never left her bed. To this day, I can still picture that eerie figure framed against the glow of the streetlights. Recurring nightmares. We moved out when I was 13, but the nightmares never stopped. Year after year, I dreamt of moving back into that house. Sometimes it was exactly as we left it, with rotten food still in the fridge. Other times, it was renovated but the sense of dread remained. The basement passage. The narrow staircase that descended from the second floor to the basement haunted me the most. In my mind, it wasn't just a passage for tenants but a gateway for whatever dark presence lurked below. Even the bike shed outside gave me chills. The dig. In one particularly vivid dream, I was digging under the front porch and found a creepy ring. It felt as if I had unearthed a piece of the house's malevolent past. The ring seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, intensifying my fear. The wood stove. In another nightmare, I moved back into the house with my wife and family. As I lit a fire in the wood stove, I saw a figure in the next room. Driven by a surge of protective instincts, I charged at the figure, only to confront a 7-foot-tall man in black robes, eerily reminiscent of the poltergeist character. Realizing I was dreaming, I tackled him and woke up in a cold sweat. The encounter. One night, driven by a need for closure, I visited the house. The new owners had painted it and put up a basketball net, seemingly happy in their home. I walked by, feeling an overwhelming urge to confront whatever was haunting me. The hypnotic state. In one of my dreams, my parents were moving back into the house in a trance-like state. Despite their hypnotic condition, I firmly insisted I would never visit them in that cursed place. The dream felt too real, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. The forgotten past. As I continued to have these recurring dreams, I began to wonder if the house had a darker history that we were unaware of. I decided to investigate, hoping to find answers that would finally put my mind at ease. The hidden room. During my research, I discovered that the house had a hidden room in the basement, sealed off for decades. The previous owners had tried to keep it a secret, but the records were there for those who knew where to look. The revelation. In my dreams, I began to piece together the history of the house. It was built on land that was once a site of dark rituals. The malevolent force was not just a figment of my imagination, but a real entity that had been awakened by our presence. The confrontation. Determined to end the nightmare once and for all, I returned to the house one final time. Armed with the knowledge I had gathered, I confronted the malevolent force, reciting an incantation to banish it. The air grew cold, and the shadows writhed as the entity fought to remain. The conclusion. As the incantation reached its climax, the malevolent force let out a piercing scream and dissipated into nothingness. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and for the first time in decades, I felt a sense of peace. I knew that the house was no longer haunted and that my recurring nightmares would finally cease. My journey had been one of fear and courage, but ultimately, it was about reclaiming my peace of mind and freeing myself from the echoes of my haunted home. The house that once terrified me was now just a memory, a chapter closed in the story of my life. If you enjoy chilling stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching.